What's up guys, Navik here, and today I'm going to show you how to deal with green screens in After Effects. Alright, so open up After Effects and drag in your clip in this little project tab over here, and once you have it, drag it into this timeline where you can start working on it. After you've done that, the first thing you need to figure out is the green in your green screen clip consistent all throughout? As you can see here, the green is darker in this area compared to here, and we need to fix that before you even begin keying. And the reason for this is because when you use the key tool in After Effects, it only selects one point of green, not a selection of the different greens in your shot. So if one green is darker than the other, then it's only gonna key that darker green shot. So let's go in to the Effects tab and look for a tool called Selective Color. Once you've dragged the selective color to your footage, you'll see that you have a couple options here. So the first thing you want to do is click Absolute. I can't give you an explanation as to why you should choose Absolute, it's just worked for me in the past whenever I deal with green screen footage. Now the next one is Greens, and select that. And then you want to go over and just drag these to the point at which the green becomes consistent all throughout the shot. So as you can see, sliding the magenta down to -100 makes the green a lot greener and also more consistent throughout this shot. You can still see that there's a bit of darker green here, and we'll fix that using the black slider over here. Alright, just try the yellows. Alright, cool. So right off the bat, you can see when you select this effect and then deselect it, we've made the green a lot more noticeable, and making the green stand out a bit more actually helps you key a lot easier and faster. Alright, so the next step is to actually move on to keying the shot. So in the Effects tab, you're going to type in Key Light, and you're going to click and then drag it over to your clip. So once you have the Key Light effect on the clip, you're just going to click on this, and you're going to select the green that's closest to your main subject's face. So I'm just going to do that. And the reason is because you just want to key the green that's mainly around the subject rather than one that's outside of their area right here, because we can always mask that out. Whereas something that's close to their skin will be harder to mask out, because then we need to make sure their skin doesn't get cut off with the mask. Once you've keyed out the green, you'll see that when you go hit screen matte, there's still some white over here. That means that there's still some green that has not been keyed out yet, and that's something we need to fix. So how do we do this? So we're gonna go back to final result. We're actually gonna increase screen blur by a little bit, just so we can soften the edges around their face over here. And this is something we'll fix as well. Alright, so the next step is clipping the black. So remember how we had some green that had yet to be keyed? Well, clipping blacks will actually help with that, and it'll help get rid of that excess green that hasn't been keyed yet. So I'm just gonna slide that to about 20, and that looks good. Alright, so now that you've clipped the blacks, now we need to figure out how to get rid of this little area right here, because from what it seems like, Key Light has also keyed part of her face. And the reason is because if you go back to the original shot, some of the green spilled on her face. So we need to fix this. And the way to do that is by clipping the white. Now if you drag this back, you'll see that her skin slowly comes back. Alright, so the next thing is we need to use Screen Shrink or Grow. And the reason for this is because if you look at this background right here, you can kind of see that there's still some of that green left over on their face. So by shrinking this, you'll see that it takes away that space that was in between the green screen and then their skin. Now that you've got rid of that extra green on their skin, or on the edge of their skin, we can move on to the next step, which is Screen Softness. And this is just to help with that harsh edge that's created by keying the background. After you mess around with Screen Softness, the next thing is to go over to Replace Method and choose Hard Color. And this helps remove that artifacting that you see on your skin. So this is before with Soft Color. And you can see this problem also is in blouse or shirt right here. By choosing hard color, we eliminate that. Cool. So far we've got a pretty good key, but to take this even further, we need to also apply something called a spill suppressor, which gets rid of this green tint that's reflected back from the green screen itself. So you're going to go into your effects tab and choose spill suppressor. And you want to use the advanced spill suppressor. Alright, so right off the bat, that did not do what we wanted. Obviously, it actually added more green than take away. So what we want to do is change the method from standard to ultra. And ultra gives us more control on the spill removal process. So in order to choose the exact green that was in our shot, uncheck the advanced spill suppressor and key light. So we get this green, the green that we improved and made more consistent, and that's the one we want to select. Alright, and apply that key. Alright, so as you can see, we don't really notice much of a difference when we toggle this advanced spill suppressor, but you can kind of notice it right here. Take a close look. Alright, so in order to fix this even further, because we still see a little bit of green on her face, we're going to mess around with the tolerance, spill range, and spill color correction. So first thing is, we want to mess around with the tolerance, see if that does anything for us. It doesn't really do much for her face, but I do notice that it does something on her blouse right here. It makes it more purple. And although that's good, we don't really want it to add more purple to her. We want it to add more purple to this subject's face because the green is on her right now. So let's actually turn the tolerance down a bit. And let's increase the range in which this effect can be applied to. So as you can see, that actually improved a lot. And if we toggle this back and forth, that green is pretty much gone. So that's really good. Just to add a little more, you can mess around with the spill color correction. And honestly, this just depends on your clip. None of these settings are, one size fits all. It really depends on the clip and how much green spill there is. So play around with these tools and see what works for you and your particular situation. One thing about keying green screen is you'll sometimes get this white outline around your subject or an object, and it's something you want to remove because it may not fit well with the background you're going to replace it with. So how do you get rid of this? You're going to go back to key light, and then you're going to choose shrink and glow. You're going to mess around with the shrink and glow until that white outline goes away. You mess around with that, you kind of see that white outline kind of disappears and it's not as noticeable as before. Now, I just went over how to key green screen, but what if you're dealing with a green screen clip that also has a bit of the environment in it? Well, it's an easy fix, and all you need to do is go over to the pen tool here and simply mask out whatever it is in that environment that you don't want in your final image. And once you mask that out, you should be able to repeat the steps that I showed you for the last clip and you'll be good to go. Alright, so that's how you key green screens in After Effects. It may be a little daunting at first, but once you get it, it's actually pretty simple. And if you'd like to know how to integrate a background into your green screen shots, stay tuned till the end. But otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe. And please let me know if you have any more questions or if you'd like me to go over anything more specific that deals with green screen shots in general. So yeah, let's move on to the next part of this video. I just found this background of some church windows on the internet. It's nothing fancy, but it works for this tutorial. So as you can see, this doesn't really look all that realistic, but don't worry, we're gonna fix that in just a second. So the first thing you need to do is position your background so that it actually matches the frame and perspective that your original shot has. So I'm just gonna play around with it, play around with the scale. If you need to actually change the perspective of your background, a good tool is Basic 3D. And basically what this allows you to do is it helps match the perspective that you're going for. Alright, so now that you've played around with the positioning of your background, we need to figure out how much blur to add to it. That way it matches the depth of field of our shot over here. Now, you may not need to blur your shot depending on the green screen footage you're working with, but in my case, because I have these people in the background which are blurry, it only makes sense if the background was a little blurry as well. In order to blur the background, we're gonna head over to the Effects tab and find Camera Lens Blur. We're gonna drag it over and apply it to this clip over here. And as you can see, it already blurs the background a little bit, but I'm gonna increase it just a tad. All right, that looks good. Now that we've applied blur to our background shot, we also need to match the hue that our green screen shot has right now. So as you can see, our green screen shot has this like purplish hue. And so we need to add that same hue to the background. That way it makes it look like it was all shot in the same place and just make it look overall more consistent. So we're gonna do that by going to the Effects tab again and choose Lumetri Color. And then we're just gonna bump up the tint until that hue is matched. Alright, so now that you've added your tint, let's just see what this background looked like before the effects and after. So as you can see, that's definitely an improvement, but we're gonna improve it a little more. So what you're gonna do is select both the original green screen shot and then the background shot and create a pre-comp out of it. So you're just gonna hit pre-compose and then you can call it pre-comp 1 or whatever. All right, so now that you have this pre-comp, we're gonna color grade it. That way we can apply a certain look to this whole image. So we're gonna drag Lumetri Color to it and then just do some basic corrections. Really, this just depends on your own taste. As long as things look consistent, that's all that matters. So this shot looks a lot better color graded. And if I toggle this effect on and off, it actually seems like the background was there to begin with. But in order to sell this effect a little further, we need to fix the rough edges around the blurred characters over here. So if you have this issue in your own shot, follow along. So the first thing we need to do is create a mask around the person that's in focus. And for the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna make a really rough mask just so you get the idea. All right, now that I've created my mask, I am going to duplicate it and I'm gonna call this one subject, call this one background, or BG for short. So obviously our background is not showing anymore, and we can fix that by going over to our background pre-comp and hitting the inverted square. And now our background is back. All right, so now we're gonna add the blur effect to our background here. And what this will do is add a blur to everything but our main subject over here. So if we play around with this, we can see what really works. And yeah, that seems to integrate really well with the rest of the shot. And if we toggle these masks off, obviously you can see that there's a black line here, and you may encounter this issue as well. And an easy fix to that is simply going to the mask around your subject and expanding it. And then also feather it just so it can blend in a little better with the background shot. And just like that, you got rid of the rough edges around the background characters. And this shot can really work for any kind of rough edge. If it's just for one character and let's say their hairline is still a bit rough on the edges, you can use this trick as well. But that's it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you're still struggling with some green screen stuff, please let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.